Hello to all my Support Fibromyalgia friends. This is Melissa. I'm the Executive Director of the Support Fibromyalgia Network and a board certified functional medicine health coach. It's Tuesday. I am jumping on to say hello, check in with everyone. How are you doing? How's your week going? Where are you tuning in from? Just let me know in the comments. Say hello. I'm trying to do more of these lives, just check in, share what recaps are going on, not only with the organization, but just personal learning. I know I had previously jumped on last week and mentioned that I was going to be taking a chronic fatigue and chronic pain course. So I'll kind of go through a little bit with you of what I learned, and it was really amazing. I was so thrilled to learn this type of information from the Karazian Institute. So I'm just excited to share just a little bit. And quick shout out to anyone out there. Please, definitely, if you can, let people know about our organization and our page. Give us our likes. We are involved with a social impact program for Facebook and Instagram. It's kind of bizarre, but I finally got to talk to a real person at Facebook on the phone. So we're a part of that group. And one thing we were kept like submitting information and surveys for to try to increase engagement in Facebook applications because they're trying to get better models for nonprofits in Facebook. So we've been completing some surveys and they outreach to us about some special giving program. I have no idea what that means, but it sounds pretty cool for fibromyalgia. If we can get spotlighted, that would be awesome for social impact in social media. So if you can, definitely please share our page so we can try to bump up our likes. That was the request. And it's always weird. I don't know what they have entailed. I hope it's not a competition because I don't think it's good for nonprofits to be competing against each other. But I don't know. We got the email request, feel like, congratulations, you're in the next step of our social good program for social impact for Facebook. So please get your people engaged and ready to go and start focusing on increasing your engagement. So I'm like, I don't know what this means, but bear with us. It'd be nice to get it going. Yes, I am definitely, I've just realized I'm out of Messenger. I'll be messaging people again. So I was able to get us there. I talked to some people, now that I have people at Facebook to talk to. So that was good. But I am excited if this is a good opportunity to highlight fibromyalgia on a bigger scale. That would be awesome. So if you can, we need your support with sharing the organization. We are a 501c3 organization registered with the IRS, and we submit our paperwork and all of that. So we got established in 2017, just to have let everyone know. So we are a legitimate 501c3 organization that was established in 2017. So all of your donations go to the programs directly. I volunteer as the executive director and at this point, and we have some incredible volunteers that support us, and that's why it means so much, with all of this. And it's been difficult with fundraising because it's hard to ask our people, but if you do happen to have a birthday fundraiser through Facebook, we would love it to connect to the Support Fibromyalgia Network. It means a lot. But we know finances are difficult. That's why we've been writing grants, submitting grants for other programs just to get the help that people need. But so if you can just share our page, get other Fibro warriors out there to like our page and engage in our content. We have some cool things coming up this week for engagement. I hope we can have a special guest tomorrow to just jump on real quickly. That will be fun. But we do have our special guests on Thursday for Swing Therapeutics. We're excited. This is part of our new launch of Fibromyalgia Research in Action. We did talk to and shared about the fidget study going on. I know that there's things changing with all of what's happening over in New Zealand. But you can learn about the fidget study, learn about the microbiome. So this Thursday at 11 a.m., we welcome our good friends Steph and Jeremy from Swing Therapeutics. So they're going to go through their new application and information with us. Please come and ask your questions, share the content, let people know that there is research being done in fibromyalgia, and get involved, because this is huge. If the more we get involved and the more we share our voice on what we want to see, people listen. And I want to let people know that there are great companies out there like Swing Therapeutics that take the time to listen to what our community is looking for. And it's important. So don't feel like nobody cares or you don't have a voice. We are pushing forward the voice and opinions of fibromyalgia. I think there have been a lot of barriers here and gatekeepers or exclusion. So we're making this accessible and we want to hear from you. So it's really cool that we get to have our special guests talk about what they're launching, getting involved with React FM. We will have more information on that Thursday. So we will be live broadcasting throughout the internet. Please do attend. And if you can't attend live, these are always replays. So they always stay there in social media. So you can share it with your group, share it with your friends. The more we engage, the more people know about our organization, and the more fibromyalgia warriors out there know that there's an organization really active. We're dig into the community, and you can learn more about our organization, other videos that I've presented before, to learn about the programs, because we're really, really eager to launch some new programs next year as well. But I did want to kind of get into, I was so thrilled with this course by the Karazian Institute. I am so, I mean, I nerded out this weekend to let you know. I mean, this was chronic fatigue and pain syndromes, clinical strategies, and treatment applications. So to be honest, this was for clinicians. I am a health coach, but I think where I've thrived in this was because I used a lot of this information to biohack myself. So I think I had a head start on some of the providers because I'm very familiar with the systems, but I didn't have a clinical understanding or clinical definitions for some of these symptoms that I applied to myself. But here's just kind of the recap. So Saturday, we started out with fatigue. And it was an introduction to cellular and physiologically bioenergetics. So we're talking about mitochondrial bioenergetics, which I was thoroughly jazzed to learn more about, understanding systems. So we go into mitochondria, ATP production. It was good. It was learning all of these facets of fatigue. I really liked how it was presented because it took away all the stigmas, did an amazing job. I really wish more providers could take this course, especially within chronic pain, and understand how it integrates together with fatigue and pain all together. So this is kind of the top outline. And again, part 2 on Sunday was the neurophysiology of pain. We were looking at that. We went through a clinical evaluation of pain syndromes, um, just clinical treatment, some case studies. He gave really good case studies. I was very happy with how information was presented on ME/CFS, CRPS, and fibromyalgia. It didn't break my heart to actually go through the class or cringe. I've sat in different discussions on chronic pain and fibromyalgia discussions with providers and how content is taught to other providers. And to be honest, at the different seminars I've sat on, I do cringe. I get so emotionally upset, but this was really done well. And I commend them for the perspective that they took. It was handled really well. I as a patient, as a health coach who's trying to bridge the gap between providers and patients, I liked how it was really presented. It took out the stigmas, took out the bias that I've heard, because I'm still hearing some of the stigmas being taught to clinicians. And it really upsets me when those stigmas keep coming up, especially with fibromyalgia, and how we just put people in a box and assume that's all that it is. And he talked about the complexities of working with fibromyalgia, ME/CFS, CRPS, different spectrums, but you have to unravel these components. And it was really well done. And I was, at the end of this 2 days, my brain was full of information. It was great. I took my exams. I passed my exams right after the class because I remembered so much of this information. I mean, this is just my life right here. And I'm sure many of you could relate to it as well. Like, this is an example of all this fatigue. You went into post-exertion, understanding these components of exercise. And then I really liked how he connected pain to the brain signals, which parts of the brain are getting really overactivated, and the signaling, and how we can assess that. Or, I mean, not we assess this, but how we would want our providers to assess this, because there's different parts of the brain. And this is what he gets into with pathway signaling. And you can even see this in how people are struggling with exercise. And so this was a great point with connections to different parts of the brain. If patients aren't doing necessarily well with certain types of exercise, that is a clue that it's certain parts of the brain that are connected to this. So if you can't do like the bouncy ball, you're sitting there, you're trying to balance, or you're getting really fatigued when you try to go to the gym, or when we used to go to the gym. But if you remember, if you tried to exercise by going to the gym and you got super super fatigued, it may not actually be the exercise itself, but the fact that you have all this extra stimulus coming in from being at the gym, and there's a lot of things going on, and then you exercise on top of it. So you're like crashing out. So there was some great information here. And one thing I did like a lot was that he encouraged providers to walk patients through all of this, like make sure that the patients are invested in this protocols, because it can take a while to unravel all of this with complex conditions. And I commend him for saying that, and really telling providers that you have to teach also your patients and make them aware of what you're doing and the procedures and what process you're taking with them. Don't just assume. And that was really awesome. Really, really awesome. So it was really intriguing. I'm going to show you one more, because I got to figure out what I'm allowed to share and what I'm not allowed to share. Just trying to break it down so maybe I don't get. But I mean, the assessment forms and stuff, he really added this turnkey system because he provided his assessment forms for providers. Gosh, I really wish that all my providers could have taken this course to better understand, and I wouldn't have had to do what I did on my own. And for all of you out there, I mean, this is something that it's just, I was so motivated. Like, how can we get this into the hands of more providers to really help people from this suffering? And this is an example too of these variables. So you're breaking down the difference in pain and the nociceptive amplifiers. So these amplifiers that just intensify pain, and he went through each one of these scientifically, with understanding, and broke it down and connected the dots, and then how to look at clues and clinically with patients. So, one thing that kept coming up for me is this free radicals oxidant. So, one of the clues is kind of this post exertion. You see it where they like exercise and just crash. So, not necessarily getting enough antioxidants. Hypoxia, he talked about, which was really interesting because it's basic basic science and basic health that sometimes the providers forget. And this was encouraging too, because he bridged standard care medicine with functional medicine. So when it comes to hypoxia, you were looking at things like asthma, allergies. How does it connect? Are they not getting enough oxygen to the lungs? And just strategies even for allergy systems and making sure their asthma isn't getting triggered, because this will increase fatigue components, especially. So if you've noticed too, like when the air, if you have more air pollution or smells, you're walking into chemicals, or you have more allergies, if you notice that you have to like take more naps and you get fatigued. So these were the connections he's building. So you have all of this going on. Then you have a pain condition, and there's various pain modalities, and you're talking about peripheral sensitization and where that goes, and then how it becomes central sensitization, and where you're getting the complex conditions like fibromyalgia, CRPS, and how we're kind of primed for this. But you see inflammatory cytokines from immune cells, prostaglandins, histamines, free radicals, hypoxia, insulin surges, adipokines, catecholamine, substance P, which we hear a lot sometimes with fibromyalgia and increases, low cortisol, microbiome metabolites. So it's all connected, right? And that's what he was really emphasizing, because he took it apart and said, some people just always like to start with the gut, but that might not be appropriate. And he really mentioned personalized it. You're really going to have to take a good health history, take basic panels like blood test panels, really review those, make sure you rule out any serious illness with your patients, especially if they're exhibiting a lot of fatigue. And so that's where the blend really came in, and that's what was exciting to actually hear and see from. So I I'm trying to figure out the component of what to do within this as a health coach. I think there's a lot that I can integrate and take away from this, especially with the assessments and looking at things together as a whole, because behavior change we're trying to implement as a health advocate for fibromyalgia too, bridging this gap. And I think we've really kind of missed the boat with how we're looking at chronic pain, and we're not as individualized as we need to be in assessing the fatigue component, mitochondria component before we push people into exercise. So that was a really deep dive into understanding the value of exercise. I get it, and I know why providers, it's very important for movement, and that component I understand. But when we're pushing everyone to just do this, or we're not breaking down what movement might be best for them, that's where we get a lot of problems. And some people, I mean, and he talked about it, some people you might have to focus on lowering some inflammation components, getting their energy, looking at the fatigue, what's creating that fatigue first, before you throw them into moving too much and overdoing it. And he talked about different thresholds, which we know if you bump up and go over that movement threshold, and you overdo it and over exercise and you crash out, he said that is no good for your patients at all, because he said it pushes them back into the wrong place. So anyone out there, just please, that was a huge takeaway too from what this course really said. He really talked about, and I've heard this again, but just emphasizing is, yes, daily movement, small. Like, you don't want to crash. So if you do exercise and crash, then 2 to 3 days or even week crashing out from the exercise you did, he's like, you're setting yourself backwards. So you're not going to be able to improve. So you have this bioenergetic stuff that you have to address. So there's other things. And this is where our providers need to like dig in, have some patience, because he said this is not going to happen overnight, but he would rather have people either like do some form of really short movement. And he said it's trial and error. You definitely, if you can do it daily, he's like, even for a minute, some people just move their arms in bed, and that's all they can handle. I know Dr. Lipton has a video on stretches. I've even seen other videos on just stretches. If that's all you can do that and do it every single day, with the other components of bioenergetics. And he said that would be the best for you, because he said some people just they go exercise, they take the advice, and then they crash. And he's like, that's where they have this crash cycle every time. Then, they crash out, they don't do the exercise for 2 to 3 days, they go back to it, and then they crash again. He's like, you really can't build up any reserve there. So that was a huge takeaway, that, and really trying to figure out what modality works for you. And he connected different parts of the brain. He talked about what parts of the brain work with pain perception. He said pain is brain based. So he really dug into which parts of the brain fueled activation and have negative plasticity coming in, and where you might have to like work out different things and really notice what might be best even for movement. So if you know that you have an extra sensitivity to light and sounds, or there's a lot of activity that stimulate you, maybe finding a quiet spot where you can just stretch and having movement. Or if you know that you get super fatigued maybe with following exercises, because it takes more coordination and cognition to actually, if you're like jumping, like you're trying to follow someone that's doing a routine and you're just like, wow, I'm really fatigued. It's like your brain might be getting extra fatigue, and it signals there might be a part of that brain system which actually needs work on, and you need some more energy and production of ATP sufficiency in that part of the brain. So maybe trying something else, maybe a different type of movement. So maybe it's not actually the stress of like, if you're doing, maybe trying to do something separately where you're not trying to follow someone, maybe dancing, and you'd have enough cardio where you're just free fall dancing to music, but you're not necessarily following someone who's doing aerobics. So I thought that was really intriguing with that. And again, there was so much to it with bioenergetics. Obviously, diet, sleep. He really emphasized sleep and how getting a good night's sleep is very, very important and something to work on. And he did mention, he's like, they're going to fall apart if you push them to exercise too fast if they're not getting a good night's sleep. So it's all connected. It's definitely important. I hope a lot of the providers that took this course really start to formulate more empathy for the complexity that chronic pain and chronic fatigue presents. It's not so simple, and that's what he addressed. Which he's like, you're not going to cure yourself out with supplements, like you kind of see with functional medicine. He really emphasized the need for basic blood test panels too, so that providers really, you have to read blood test panels. He went through all of that in the clinical evaluation of what to look for, maybe things to look for that signal something else is going on. I can't actually wait to take more. He has autoimmune courses and neuroinflammation. So probably have that, but I was very happy to see a course like this being presented in the way it was. And I just, like I said, sometimes I cringe when I see the stigma behind fibromyalgia and how it gets discounted, kind of thrown away, dismissed. And this did not do any of that. This really gave fibromyalgia the justice it needs and the complexity and the respect it needs for personalizing treatment plans and protocols, and for people to really focus on the entirety of what's happening and understand it's not the patient's fault. Like, and there's only so much that we can do also, which is something that we're working on here through health coaching. But I'm really glad to see this, and it really inspired me to look a little bit differently too at the Project Echo system, which I need your support out there to launch. Project Echo seems like a snail, and we got to get it launched to educate providers, because someone left a comment when I shared that I passed my exam for this class, and was like, well, there's a barrier to cost. And this was much more of affordable class than most for the value, because he gave assessment forms, he gave all this information, which was awesome. So clinicians and stuff could like basically turnkey this, work with patients and follow his procedures with this and have some good results. But one thing is like barriers to care, especially for people, physicians and stuff internationally or in remote parts of the country. So I just, Project Echo is going to be super important to breaking down those barriers, educating like this, taking these fundamentals and educating exactly like this and presenting it in case-based learning. So there were case studies presented, and I was glad to see as well. So the practical application was also presented, but we got to do this moving forward with Project Echo. So I need your help out there. If you have providers that want to learn more about fibromyalgia, or if your provider is the bomb, like you want your provider to like share their information about fibromyalgia to other providers, message us, let us know. Let's set up a conversation with your provider. We need both providers to present case studies, educate other providers, and then we need providers that are interested in learning more about fibromyalgia. So anyone out there, this definitely is a big project we want to get off the ground. I'm excited. I know the technology and how to run the Echo. We got that dialed in, but now we need the people. So we need the providers to come in, get excited about some fibromyalgia clinical applications, treatment applications, and what they're going to do is share with each other case-based learning. So if you feel like your provider has it dialed in for fibromyalgia, wants to share, is interested in sharing with other providers, reach out. We need them. We need to connect this community together. We need to bridge the gaps with patients and providers. So, and if there's anyone out there who is, either retired healthcare professional or still in the field and is an allied professional, please reach out. You're going to be seeing a lot more of Project Echo. We got to get this launched. This is important stuff, because I think the patients, we like educating all of you as patients too, but I know our brains hurt. Our brains hurt to go through all this information and apply this to ourselves. So we need to get our providers educated, and I really believe that they'll get it, and I think they'll feel a sense of community afterwards, which is the important part. So that way they can feel like they're making a difference again, right, in the community. And then we can get a sense of relief too, because we have providers we're working with. We don't have to drive 4 hours away to see someone that's maybe a specialist, but we want people just across the board everywhere in this country and eventually internationally trained in the same fibromyalgia principles. That is whole body, personalized type medicine. So thank you, everyone. Tune in. Definitely don't miss out on Swing Therapeutics this Thursday live presentation. I will check in with you. Hopefully, we'll have a special guest tomorrow. We'll see. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful week and see you on Thursday. Bye.